Listen, if you're a high-achieving woman who's been telling yourself you need to have everything figured out before you scale, before you launch, before you put yourself out there, this series is going to shake some things loose for you. Welcome to the Manifest and Chill podcast. I'm your host, Tracy Ftacek, where we dive in each week to chat about how high-achieving women can release the need to be perfect and find peace, drop the hustle without giving up their ambitions, and manifest the life they truly desire. I'm a certified manifestation and visualization coach with a rich and exhausting background as a serial entrepreneur and tech founder who is obsessed with teaching women how to manifest the life they desire and chill the fuck out in the process. Let's dive in. Well, hello, beautiful humans, and welcome back to the Manifest and Chill podcast. I'm Tracy Ftacek, your host, and today we're kicking off the month of October with something I'm so excited about. It's a brand new series. If you had listened to our last series in the month of September, it was all about giving yourself permission to pause. And it is an important process for us to use, especially as high-achieving women, as we're growing, scaling, building from scratch, and bootstrapping our own businesses as entrepreneurs. But this month in October, we're going to really tap into one of the overarching themes of my most successful low-cost program, Peace Over Perfection. And if you have any interests in the program, feel free, check the show notes. It's a great entry if you're new as a high-achieving woman to finding ways to drop the hustle, but keep your ambition. So listen, today I'm going to have us dive into the perfectionist scaling trap. And I'm going to share a story that honestly, I'm a little embarrassed about how long this took me, but I know you need to hear it. And listen, if you're a high-achieving woman who's been telling yourself you need to have everything figured out before you scale, before you launch, before you put yourself out there, this series is going to shake some things loose for you. So 3 years ago, I had this idea. I wanted to create a guided journal for high-achieving women. I had purchased many journals over the years, even just some blank books for me to write my own thoughts, questions, and guides. And they were all wonderful and they served a purpose. But what I couldn't find is something for high-achieving women that wasn't just about how to optimize your schedule in 10 minutes or less per day. I felt that was a little too generic, a little too masculine, and I wanted something that could balance some of our feminine energy into masculine energy and vice versa. Something that would help my clients, the women I serve, you who's listening right now, understand the infinite possibilities in your life, what you truly believe, what you can achieve, and what will actually help you feel fulfilled at the end of the day. So I was watching so many incredible women stuck in this hustle hard burnout cycle, making decisions from exhaustion instead of alignment. And I knew this journal could help. So 3 years ago, you guys, 3 years I spent working on it. But here's the thing. I wasn't actually working on it. I was thinking about it. I was researching it. I was planning it. I was perfecting it in my head. And you know what was really happening? I was scared shitless because here's the story I was telling myself. Tracy, you're not a real writer. You don't have formal training. You don't have a degree in writing or journalism. Who are you to write a book? Sound familiar? And here's what's wild. There's actual science behind why we do this to ourselves. I found an article in Psychology Today that I read that explains that high-achieving women's perfectionism is often rooted in early experiences and societal pressures. We tend to set these unrealistically high standards that actually result in chronic stress and inaction instead of progress. Let's think about that for a second. The very thing we think is going to help us succeed, perfectionism, is actually what's keeping us stuck. So I did what all perfectionists do when they are scared. I procrastinated. Sound familiar? I told myself I needed more research. I told myself I needed to read more books about writing. I needed to take a course. I needed to be ready. But you know what ready really meant? It meant perfect. And perfect meant never. Here's the thing about perfectionism that nobody talks about. It's fear, and it completely eliminates flexibility. When you're focused on getting everything exactly right, you can't pivot when you learn something new. You can't adapt when the market gives you feedback. You can't iterate based on what's actually working. Perfectionism stunts growth because growth requires experimentation. And experimentation requires being okay with sometimes failure, but what's that big word? Imperfection. It wasn't until just last year that I actually started writing. And even then, I was doing that thing we perfectionists do, waiting until the last minute, then trying to throw something together that looked effortless. But then something shifted. I started sharing chapters with the women in my masterminds, just raw, imperfect chapters. And you know what? The breakthroughs they were having? One of my clients had a massive breakthrough. She realized that her belief that she was awful at sales came from being berated and yelled at by a drug-fueled supervisor when she was in her early 20s. Just from working through one of my journal prompts, she released that false belief, and now she can't be stopped. But she carried that fear, that perfectionism, that story that somebody else told her for nearly 30 years. That's when I realized my perfectionism wasn't protecting my work, that it was keeping it from the women who needed it. And then I had a deadline that changed everything. I made the decision this last summer to take 4 women to Tulum in November for a retreat. And I knew I wanted to gift them this journal. We're going to work through it together over those 5 days and 4 nights. And if you're interested in being joining the Tulum retreat, link for the applications down below in the show notes. But we're going to be working through it together over those 5 days, 4 nights. And suddenly, perfection met reality. And reality won because I needed this thing done. I needed this journal completed so that I could bring it to the women that are saying yes to coming in to this container. Here's what research shows us about perfectionism and scaling. It actually exacerbates burnout among women leaders. It's increasing self-criticism. I can't even say the word. It's increasing self-criticism and making us feel overwhelmed by excessive responsibilities. It limits our energy and capacity for business expansion. Leadership consultants explain that perfectionism keeps women entrepreneurs small by preventing the risk-taking and continuous learning that's essential to scale a business. Let me say that again. Perfectionism prevents risk-taking and continuous learning, the 2 things you absolutely need to scale your business. When you're trying to be perfect, you can't take risks because risks involve the possibility of failure. And when you can't take risks, you can't learn what actually works. So you stay stuck in planning mode instead of growing mode. I cannot tell you how many women I have worked with and coached that are working on a project. And when I say to them, well, why don't you do a lead magnet or a founding member circle or a opportunity for others to try it. They're like, oh, no, it's not ready yet. I have to do this. Well, that's the whole purpose of a founding members circle. That's the whole purpose of a lead magnet, is to test the waters with something that's not absolutely perfect to see what sticks to the wall. But first, you need to know if you're actually trapped. So I'm going to give you 3 ways to assess if perfectionism is keeping you small. And these are 3 simple, quick edits you can do of yourself to understand what you need to focus on, adjusting, redirecting, or correcting to get yourself beyond the perfectionism trap. One of them is going to be a time audit. Look at how you're spending your time. Are you researching, planning, preparing more than you actually doing? I spent 2 years researching how to write a book instead of writing. If you're spending more time getting ready to do the thing than actually doing the thing, that's perfectionism disguised as preparation. Step 2 is the launch test. Ask yourself, what have I been almost ready to launch for more than 3 months? 3 months is a perfect little sweet spot because it generally should only take you a couple of months at the very most to get the basis of a program together or the basic of a launch together. That course you've been perfecting, that service you've been refining, that idea you've been developing, if it's been sitting in development hell for months, perfectionism is driving the bus for you, my friend. Step 3, this is the final step, the fear check. Because what we know is that perfectionism is just fear dressed up in a pretty package. So the fear check. Get honest about what you're really afraid of. Are you afraid if it won't be good enough? Are you afraid people will judge you? Are you afraid you don't have the right credentials? These aren't quality concerns, they're fear concerns. And fear dressed up as high standards is still just fear. Excellence says, I'm going to do my best with the resources and knowledge I have right now. Perfectionism says, I can't share this until it's flawless. Progress says, I'm going to learn and improve as I go. Perfectionism says, I need to figure it all out before I start. The journal I've written is called Manifest and Chill, a guided journal to your most important project, you. My friends, it's not perfect. There are probably typos I haven't caught. The design could probably be more sophisticated. The binding might not be as fancy as some other journals, but it's done. And it's going to change lives in Tulum. And that matters more than perfect. So here's what I want to ask you. What are you perfecting instead of completing? What project, what launch, what idea have you been working on, and I'm doing air quotes around that, for months or years without actually finishing? What would happen if you gave yourself permission to be imperfect, to be a beginner, to learn as you go? Because here's the truth about scaling. It doesn't happen in the planning phase. It happens in the messy middle. It happens when you choose progress over perfection. When you choose done over perfect. When you choose serving people over protecting your own ego. Your people don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be present. They need you to show up, even when it's scary, even when you don't feel ready. Next week, we're going to be diving into the theory of peace over perfection. It's going to be a ready, fire, and aim episode. Why imperfect action beats perfect planning every time. And I'm going to share some stories that will make you rethink everything you think you know about being ready. If for any reason this episode hit you somewhere deep, I want to hear about it. Send me a DM on Instagram or LinkedIn and tell me what you're ready to stop perfecting and start completing. If you're a high-achieving woman who's ready to break free from the hustle hard burnout cycle, I have 4 spots remaining for my Tulum retreat in November. We'll be working through Manifest and Chill together, and I promise you it will be life-changing. The application link is in the show notes below. And remember, beautiful humans, you don't have to be perfect to be powerful. You just have to be willing to begin. I'll see you next week for Ready, Aim, Fire. Until then, have a beautiful week. And remember, you can manifest the life you desire if you can just learn to chill the fuck out in the process.